everyone. Welcome to Dojo Demo Day. Yeah, woo! Thank you all so much for coming. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Innovation Dojo Fall 2017 Demo Day. We are really excited. In case you don't know what Dojo is, brief recap, Dojo is, as it says up here, a semester-long student-run program that takes a cohort of first and second years of Brown and RISD through the entrepreneurial process. So every Friday afternoon, we have speakers and workshops, and along the way, all the dojis, as we like to call them, work on their own venture, which is what they're about to pitch to you today. I'm very excited to announce that for the first time ever at Dojo Demo Day, this actually will be a competition. So I'd like to thank the Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship for providing our prize, which is an Explore grant of up to $500 of seed funding for the doji to continue working on his or her venture. I would also like to thank our judges here today with us, Karina Wood, who is the Executive Director of Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Small Business, Rhode Island, and Annette Tomty, who's a lifelong entrepreneur, currently the founder and CEO of the Innovation Scout. We're really lucky to have them here with us today. Yeah. And finally, I just want to say to the dojis, on behalf of all the mentors, we are so proud of everything you've done this semester and so excited for you to be able to share it with everyone. So without further ado, Heidi, take it away.
Fear, a super fun way to start off Innovation Dojo's Demo Day. I'm sure many of us in Dojo are feeling this right now as we prepare the pitch for you all this afternoon, and I'm sure this is something many of you are quite familiar with. We have a very limited time on this planet, and while we would love to make the most of it, fear can prevent us from doing the things that we want to do most. Here are the results of a survey conducted on campus in which I asked students to rank these 10 emotional fears in order from most to least prevalent in their lives. There were a couple of interesting takeaways. People were much more afraid of failure than they were of death. To be fair, this survey was conducted on Brown students, so the results are probably a bit skewed. But on some level, I'm sure we can all understand how powerful and crippling these emotional fears can be. We don't ask out the girl who could be the love of our life because we're scared of rejection. We don't devote more time to the side project that could lead to our dream career because we're afraid we might regret spending our time on something financially risky. And the worst part is that fear is irrational. We can know rationally that when we present in front of an audience, the chance of embarrassing ourselves is relatively low. And even if we were to embarrass ourselves, it's not as if there would be any real consequences. But it's like there's this inner child inside of us who refuses to listen to rationality. The inner child is paralyzed by even the smallest possibility of failure or rejection or embarrassment. So is there some way we can appeal to this inner child and stop fear in its tracks? We're often scared of what we don't fully understand. So naturally, if we want to fight our fears, we should try to gain understanding. The things that scare us become much less scary with a little more perspective and information. This is why I've spent the past few weeks collaborating with a friend at Cornell on Hens, a webcomic targeted towards children. Children as in both literal children and as in the inner child inside of each of us regardless of age. Hens uses new perspectives to address people's emotional fears. Maybe embarrassment is just our vulnerability helping us connect with others. Maybe failure is only an indicator that we aren't where we thought we would be, and not at all an indicator that we aren't still somewhere we're happy to be. New perspectives can help us understand our fears so that we can fight them. Comics might seem like a weird solution to the problem, but they have a lot of power. Comics encourage genuine reader engagement as readers fill in the gaps between panels and immerse themselves in the content. Part of the reason Peanuts was so successful is that Charlie Brown is drawn so simply that anyone can identify with him. A 2015 study by the Radiological Society of North America even showed that comics are so digestible that they can help ease children's fears surrounding MRI scans. And comics seem childish, but maybe that is exactly what we need when we're trying to appeal to our scared inner children. I would put some full Hens comics up here, but for the sake of time, here are a couple of scattered, out-of-context panels so you can get a sense of the comics. They can be found online on Instagram and Twitter at Hens Webcomic. While we hope to use social media to reach a diverse audience, we would also love to expand our distribution channels to include local elementary schools. We often feel fear when we're doing something worth doing. Fear should not be an indicator of all the things that could go wrong, but rather an indicator of everything that has so far gone so right to bring us to a point where we are doing things that scare us a little, and sometimes more than a little. Sometimes we're doing things that scare us a lot. but maybe extra perspective and understanding can help us fight our fears so that we can start making the most of our short and wonderfully frightening time on this planet. Thank you.
You ready? All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We're glad that you're here with us today. My name is Christian.
And I'm Catherine.
And we're here to present to you a lifeline for students who find themselves in high-stress, last-minute cramming situations. So the idea for this particular project came from a personal moment of crisis. It's my first semester here at Brown. And when I was assigned my first major assignment for my history class, I did what any reasonable student would do, which is that I waited till the absolute last minute to do this paper. It was a very specific deadline. It was a Wednesday at 10 a.m. So at 9:30, I'm sitting there trying to figure out the paw prints printing system after pulling an all-nighter, and it was such a stressful situation. And after going through that moment and just kind of reflecting on that, why I'd put myself in that moment, I realized that a lot of my procrastination was due to the fact that I was really struggling with the concept of the course. Like, I was struggling through the readings, and I realized that it would have helped to work through that with a couple of students. I'd actually tried to arrange a couple meetups to study with a couple friends, but I faced a lot of barriers in doing so. And so that was particularly frustrating because I would study in very social or populated study areas, and I would kind of look around me and wonder how many people were going through that same problem that could maybe benefit from studying with somebody else, but couldn't arrange that necessarily. So this is what kind of got us thinking about collaborative learning.
Yeah, so what Christian's story really shows us is the importance and the power of collaboration. Now, according to a lot of psychological studies, there are so many benefits to collaborative learning. For example, you have an increase in self-esteem, you have better attitudes towards your teachers, you also think better, and most importantly, you understand the material more because you're grappling it with other students.
So having established the fact that collaborative learning is a more productive way of learning, especially in those high-pressure situations, we wanted to find a solution to kind of remove the barriers to arrange those spontaneous meetups. And sometimes those barriers can be, if you're not a very social person in your class, maybe you don't know a lot of people, or sometimes maybe you are, but you forget to exchange contact information, or sometimes just arranging a meetup, among our hectic schedules can be pretty tough. So we wanted to find a way to kind of remove those barriers and make this more spontaneous.
So what our solution is an app called SOS, Study on the Spot. So here's a prototype over there. So what the app basically does is that you can enter the classes that you're currently taking. And then when in a moment of crisis, you can create an event, state the location and the time. Other people in your class will see it, and if they're in the same situation, they can join you. Likewise, if someone else in your class makes an event and you see it, you can also join them. So now you might wonder, why hasn't this been done before? We've done some research in the past to look at other apps, and there have been general meetup apps. However, none of these have been very successful and have been far too complicated. What we have done is pinpointed a specific issue and solved it by having students connect together through their academic and similar classes. Additionally, what sets our app apart is its simplicity. It's so easy to use that when in a moment of crisis, it'll be easy as 1, 2, 3.
So two of the main goals that we had when conducting our research this semester was first to establish whether this was really a need in our community, and two, how to make that solution the most efficient possible. And so what we did is that we polled a bunch of Brown students, and what we did is we kind of talked about the concept and we built the prototype that Catherine showed you and kind of had them interact with it. This is some of the feedback that we received. People were generally very receptive, very excited about the product. People were like, dude, tell me when you build that. And just one of the highlights that I had was in speaking to an upperclassman who talked about her undergraduate career, and she was like, wow, you just really verbalized the issue that I've been grappling with, and something like this would have been just so useful. So
yeah, so as for the future, now that we've constructed a prototype, what we envision is to hopefully pilot it within Brown University and hopefully with other colleges around Rhode Island, and for the future have it accessible for all students. SOS, a lifeline to help you study on the spot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia. I grew up in a family, many of my family members work in the fashion industry. However, I did not form my own opinion on the industry until I took a course here last spring called Fashion as Technology. And essentially what I learned is that the fashion industry targets women specifically as a source of profit, and basically makes them feel as though they can never buy enough product to satisfy conventional beauty standards. And this renders women physically and mentally debilitated in public relative to men. I wrote my final paper on the history of pockets and basically analyzed an inherent sexism within the allocation of pockets and the functionality of pockets on men and women's clothing. For example, my jeans, my pockets are not real pockets. So that's not great. So for my project, what I wanted to do was basically supply women with clothing that is functional, well-fitted, and personalized. I had an internship in the summer following this summer, and I saw women, I worked in New York City, saw women on the street and saw how much more slowly they walked in comparison to men on their way to work. You know, today women are represented in the work sphere. We play sports that historically have always been for boys, and we're at top-tier universities, but our clothing still puts us at a disadvantage. And you know, we're kind of prevented from feeling supported in doing our best in whatever we do. So Posh is an e-commerce-based apparel line. It's a website, which is unique in how it doubles as a social media platform. So the shopping experience itself is you make an account with us, and similarly to Instagram or Twitter, you have followers, and then there are also people that you follow. I often am speaking to my friends about what I've recently bought, what skirts I like, what brands I don't like. So in this way, to have the people that you follow, their purchases would be visible to you on a news feed. And seeing that our clothing is customizable, which I'll get to in a second, this would also be a source of sort of inspiration in designing your own clothing to see how your friends or your peers are designing their clothing. Also, another benefit of having an account with us is that Posh aims to get rid of conventional sizing. A huge issue with the fashion industry currently is the inconsistency in sizing between brands, and we aim to completely eradicate of conventionalized sizing. Instead, you would put in inches or centimeters your own measurements, and Posh would kind of create a mannequin to proportion itself to look like your body type so that you can see sort of how your body would look in the clothing that we supply for you. And in this way, this is actually really freeing for women psychologically and physically when they can come to terms with the fact that no clothing item should look the same on two body types. So the shopping experience itself, Posh does not follow the fast fashion calendar of today because it is so wasteful. We follow the traditional fashion calendar, and essentially what we come out with is 10 to 20, not clothing pieces. We do have a set of kind of pre-designed items that someone can buy from immediately, but also basically what's so different about us is that we would come out with 10 to 20 sort of outlines of clothing which then the woman can customize. Customization kind of varies between adding a specific trim to your skirt to adding some sort of gadgetry or functional pocket to your skirt, tentatively some sort of phone charger that slips in, that is hidden in your pocket, or some sort of special key ring, which, you know, so that you never forget where your keys are. And in this way, Posh is really unique in how it doesn't only foster empowerment, like a discourse of empowerment between women and for women, but it also, you know, custom tailors both the shopping experience and the product to each and every one of its consumers and her lifestyle. So while my next dojo project will be about how to keep my family employed when I drive all of their wasteful brick and mortar businesses out of business, I will take any questions you guys have about Posh right now.
Hi guys, my name's Hugh. I'm here to talk to you today about a huge problem in the loan industry. Now I know when I say the word loan, I probably lose about half of your attention since it sounds really boring. But this is a huge problem, and it's really likely that it's going to affect you later in life. So if you find this as interesting as I do, you'll like this a lot. So the current industry, let's say we've got three characters. We've got Dave, we've got Martha, and we've got John. Dave is a lender, and Dave lends money to Martha for her small cupcake business in New York. When Dave lends money to Martha, Dave has no idea on the specific items that Martha currently purchases, and there's no ability to currently do that, and there's no software that does that. When Dave lends the money to Martha, and Martha goes to renovate her business, let's say she takes out a small business renovation loan, Dave doesn't know if Martha's going to be spending the money inconsistently and not frugally at all. So Martha spends the money outside of the uses for a small business renovation and ends up defaulting on the loan. Dave is out of his money, and that's a huge problem for lenders. The second problem is, what if Martha's a fraud? This is a $6 billion problem right now in the loan industry, and it's increasing, especially with digital loans and new loans that are done purely online. So if Martha's a fraud, and Martha simply takes the money and then ghosts Dave, then Martha's completely run away, and there's no way for Dave to have insurance on it, since many loans are uncollateralized. Though there is now possibly a current solution, and that's what me, my friend Drew, and my identical twin James are working on. So there is new payment technology that will allow for the potential possibility of being able to approve, flag, or deny of specific transactions with loaned money. So in this example, and in our current solution, Dave is able to lend Martha money with the ability of knowing on what specific items and not just what stores Martha goes to. When Martha spends her money, Dave is able to approve, flag, or deny the transactions in real time and be able to look at whether or not this type of activity is worth bringing up with Martha, or wondering whether or not she's a fraud or possibly spending the money inconsistently or too fast. So how does this help Martha, and how does this help the little guy? Well, if Martha takes out a loan from Dave and Martha's able to pay back that loan effectively, then Dave in the future is able to give a loan to somebody like John, who's a small furniture maker in New York, at a better rate. This is because Martha will pay back her loan more effectively, and also John will be able to receive a better rate because of the fact that Martha's paying back her loan and Dave can lend with more confidence. So this is a huge, huge problem that in the current way that loans are happening, and basically if we're able to do it this way, we'll be able to get much better interest rates. And with better interest rates, we'll have a lot more business development in America and across the globe. So this is what a potential screen would look like from Dave's perspective. From the lender's perspective, we can see we've got approved, flagged, and denied products, and we can also see how quickly Martha's spending the money. From this, we're able to generate a number as to whether or not Martha is being a secure investment and is able to possibly pay back the loans, and we'll be able to intervene if Martha's potentially not sticking to her goals. This is also extremely useful for a lender who's possibly giving money to somebody who might be a riskier investment, and allows them the opportunity to take out a loan where they otherwise might not have been able to. So thank you very much, and I'll happily field any questions.
All right, hello everybody. My name's Jake Martin, and I'm here today to talk to you about Binder, your one-stop solution for crafting your next paper. But before I start, I'd like us all to consider a quick hypothetical that I know many of us have experienced. You're a college student, and you're back on campus for the next semester. You're excited to see your old friends, maybe make some new ones, even hit up a couple of parties. But I hate to break it to you, you got one more thing you gotta do. You gotta write a paper. That's right, you've already got your first paper. Actually, you have your first, second, third, and fourth paper. It's pretty anxiety-inducing, I know. But you've done this before, you know what to do. So let's get out our paper writing toolkit, so to speak. It's that simple. So this is everything I used to write my last paper. For everything from keeping track of my sources to all my notes about my sources, actually writing the paper, collaborating, downloading things, crafting bibliographies. So this works, but it's not exactly simple. And I want to give a shout out to one more thing, the copy-paste button. Because when you're working with this many different applications, you're going to be moving a lot of data from one place to another. Now, luckily for you, you're not alone. There are 25 million other people like you. That's right, 25 million college students in the US alone. That's 40% of the coveted 18 to 24-year-old demographic. And that's not even counting the 2 million scientific papers published within the past year. Let it be known, there is a market for writing papers. And that is why, when I looked at this hodgepodge of apps that works but isn't great, I thought we could do better. And so I created Binder, your one-stop solution for crafting your next paper. It can handle everything from the beginning of your research process to the end of your writing process. For research, it can allow you to annotate and highlight sources in browser or in PDF. Look at other people's highlights and annotations to help you skim more easily and understand the things you're reading. Export your annotations and sources with one click in a way that's structured and easily searchable later on to your Binder homepage. And when you're writing, you can pull information from your sources really easily. You can create endnotes with a single click and bibliographies with a single click as well. So it handles everything from beginning to end. Now, I know that was a lot of features to throw at you at once, so I'll run you through a quick little prototype I mocked up. So let's say I'm researching my history paper, and I come across this journal article about Stalingrad. It's 20 pages long, and it is dense. Not only that, I don't know if it's actually going to be useful to me. And maybe Binder can help me with this. So if you look in the top right, that's the Binder Chrome applet. If you hit that, the first thing that will happen is this. You get to see popular highlights and annotations immediately from other users within the Binder ecosystem. Additionally, as Binder sees more and more highlights, it will be able to start to auto-create some of these on their own, even without users. And so this is a lot easier to skim now. You can look at the annotations to help you understand what's going on a little bit better, but it's still 20 pages long. So I think we can do even better than this when it comes to compression. And that's what the TLDR button's for. So you hit that, and you get to see a quick take, which is a even more compressed version of the paper created from highlights from the whole paper from users throughout the ecosystem. You can click on any of these to jump to that point in the paper, and it also helps you look kind of just a really high-level overview of what's going on in this entire paper, and you can see some people's notes. Now, we could click through this, but I'm convinced that this journal article is worth reading for my paper. So let's click back, turn off popular highlights, switch popular annotations to my notes, because sometimes you like a clean slate. Make some highlights of your own, a couple annotations of your own, and now how do I get this saved for later, because I'm actually going to have to go access this later when I write the paper? Well, it's a one click again. You hit the Binder button, and it's saved. In the last project you saved it to, you can add tags to help you search later, and it didn't take any copy pasting. It only took one single application, just Binder, one paper, one place.
Hi, thank you all for coming out. My name is Mac McCann, and today I'm presenting Planner at Brown, a sensible four-year planner. So my Dojo project addresses the problem that a lot of Brown students face when they don't know which classes to take and when to take them. So first I'd like to talk about my problem when I came to Brown. I knew I either wanted to take computer science or CS Econ as my concentration, but I didn't know which one I really wanted to do, and I really didn't want to commit myself to one of them freshman year. And unfortunately, when I was looking at a lot of the requirements for these concentrations and the prereqs for certain other courses that I wanted to take for fun, it was a lot of the websites were poorly designed and they weren't consistent between different sources. I know, I'm sorry to shame CAB, but like the design is kind of bad. So this was a big pain point for me. And so I created a bunch of spreadsheets. I spent a few hours seeing if I could get both of these concentration requirements out of the way. I didn't want to get stuck taking 5 computer science courses my senior year, and I really wanted to take these other fun classes that had a lot of prerequisites. But it took a while, but eventually I managed to get everything done in 4 years. And then I got this email from the head of undergraduate computer science that said, all the concentration requirements have changed, so my plan was completely out the window. And this is a big problem for a lot of students at Brown, because an estimated 75% of students will change their major at least once before graduation. So I thought there must be a better way, and that's why I created Planner at Brown. And I think the best way to show off Planner at Brown is to just do a little demo. So this is the first screen you see for Planner at Brown. And if you're an incoming freshman to Brown, you can just enter your concentration as one of the requirements, and it'll give you a full 4-year plan. But if you've already taken courses at Brown, you can enter those courses in the boxes, and then when you click the Submit button, it'll tell you which courses you need to take for the remaining semesters at Brown. So some of these courses are laid out, and there's no options for them. You have to take them that semester. But other courses, like electives, you can select from a list of different options. Now, if you select options that have conflicts within the concentration, Planner at Brown will tell you that you can't do that. But once you resolve all the conflicts, everything is green, and this is a valid concentration. So where do we go next from this? One of the big problems in implementing Planner at Brown is that there's no single source of truth. there's no master list of concentrations, their requirements, the courses, and the prerequisites. So part of the effort in building Planner at Brown would be to build up that courses database. I'd like the implementation to be a simple website with the opportunity for expansion to other universities in the future. So thank you once again for all coming out. Are there any questions?
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Lucia Winton, and my dojo project is called Brown Superior Designers. So first off, I'd like to ask everyone in the crowd to imagine themselves as incoming freshmen at Brown. You are confronted with this situation. Which room would you prefer? And I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume that everyone would prefer the room on the right. I mean, who wouldn't? It's cozy, it's comfortable, it looks beautiful. I would live there permanently and be happy. And frankly, the room on the left makes me sad just looking at it. And yes, this is a real room at Brown. So coming into Brown, this is one of my main concerns. I mean, the average freshman spends around 41% of their time in their dorm room, which is a crazy amount of time to spend in a room unless you know for sure that you're going to feel good in there and like the way it looks. So when I was preparing for my big college experience, instead of worrying about classes or professors or all of the other natural worries for college, incoming college freshmen, I was freaking out about this. I was like, how do I find the right throw pillow for my bed? What's the design of my floor plan? What are the dimensions? Do I need to bring my own storage crate? Will I have room for all my clothes? None of these questions could be answered on any Brown resource. And this was extremely frustrating and was actually my primary source of anxiety coming into college. And anxiety is, as we all know, one of the #1 issues among college students, and 62% of college students feel an overwhelming sense of anxiety within the past year. And no, I'm not saying that everyone feels anxiety about their dorm room, but I am saying that having a safe and beautiful place to come home to that feels like a sense of home after a stressful day can at least help in a little way to contribute against some of this anxiety. That's where Brown Superior Designers comes in. So this is a group of Brown students interested in architecture or design who are interested in helping freshman students. And so it's a service run by Brown students for Brown students, which pairs current students with incoming students through a simple survey process and then customizes a floor plan for them and then helps them with any other needs they might have. So the service process is extremely simple. By asking a few basic questions, the designers can learn basic information about the student and help them decide what type of design they will build for their dorm. From this, they will build a floor plan. For instance, if you're interested in having an open floor plan with lots of space for socializing, this would be ideal for you, but maybe you want to focus more on having a private floor plan. You want to feel like you're in a single, you don't want to see your roommate ever. This would work for you then. And there's lots of other varieties that would all be based off of the survey and the designers, what the designer thinks the student needs most. And so the business model for this is it's a free service. It's really based on enhancing the community and building peer-to-peer interactions. And because of it's a simple sign-up service. And because of the way that it works with connecting upperclassmen to underclassmen, it'd be marketed through social media. As you can see, this would be an example of the Instagram account, which would really work on advocating for the service and explaining and posting ideal dorm rooms and helping students through that way too. So overall, Brown Superior Designers is a simple but effective service that helps incoming freshmen feel less anxiety when they're coming to college and also feel excited about their new journey ahead. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Maldonado, and this is my project, Feta. So why Feta? So at the beginning of the school year, I was super excited to live off campus. My friends and I, we found the perfect place, in the perfect location. I was so pumped to go grocery shopping, to make my own food, to finally feel independent. But then it kind of hit me. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue how to work all these extra expenses, how they work with my financial aid, and what that all means. And so I kind of just gave up on the idea of living off campus. And this is why I need FETA. So FETA basically helps students take charge of all these other expenses by helping them control costs that are within their range. So in this case, specifically meal plan and off-campus housing. FETA kind of looks at a few specific things: where you go to school, your spending habits, and whether or not you're on financial aid. Cool. So now I'm going to give you a little rundown of FETA. So once you first make your account with FETA, basically it asks where you go to school. This is so it personalizes the cost, because at every school, I think room and board is different. So in this case, we're going to use Brown. But before that, it's going to ask you whether or not you're on financial aid. And so what this does is that it kind of personalizes advice and tips that it gives you throughout your experience. Next, on the advice section, so let's say you put in Brown. So let's say you get Brown covers about half of your room and board and the rest you're on loans. So you don't exactly know what it means to go off campus and kind of lose half of that money. But in essence, some schools like Brown, they're willing to give you the money that they're recovering for. So you can ask them for it, basically, and that's a tip that it would give you, for example. And in essence, the advice changes as your spending trends change or increase. Cool. So then it goes into allocation. It separates all the costs that you can control. So in this case, it's housing and meal plan, and it's going to ask you whether or not you want to go off meal plan or off campus. And it's going to ask you to connect your bank, mostly just to track your expenses and to see where the money is going. Next, it's going to ask how much you want to save. And just as a note, you don't have to go off campus to be off meal plan, and you don't have to be off meal plan to go, and vice versa. Cool. And so in the monitoring section, it's going to kind of show you exactly how much you can spend and how much you should be spending. And it's going to be tracking how much money you are spending throughout the month, as well as when your rent is due. And it's going to show you those overall expenses as they continue. Cool. So, and then there's another section, trends. And so what this is showing is your spending habits weekly and monthly, so it's easier to visualize for you. So just in case there's a spike somewhere, it's going to circle it and going to easily note it to you. Cool. And then alerts. It's going to give you the option of whether or not you want alerts weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. And so this is basically, let's say you're spending a decent amount throughout the weeks, and then suddenly you're spending twice as much as you normally are. So it's going to send you an alert and tell you, hey, there's some changes into your spending habits. Come check us out and look at the advice. And then so it's going to take you to the advice section and kind of give you tips on ways on how to spend less. Cool. And so that's FETA, redefining expenses to empower college students. Thank you, everyone, and I'm happy to take questions.
Hi, guys. Thanks for coming. I'm Christian Hanway, and today I will be presenting Next Book. Now, I'm a sophomore here at Brown University, and this past semester I took a class called Intermediate Macroeconomics. Used a book called, not that surprisingly, Macroeconomics. Now, in this class, like in most of my classes, the professor presented most of the information on slides that we could later access on Canvas, meaning what we needed to know for the class could be accessed at any time on the internet. This class had 6 homework assignments, 3 of which were problem sets, which required the book, and 3 of which were research papers, which didn't. I'm a bit of a traditionalist, so even though I didn't really need the book to study, I still enjoyed using it. And altogether for this class, I probably used this book about 5 times. For those 5 times, I paid $209. Now, this isn't a very rare problem. The textbook industry is incredibly overpriced. The average student will pay $1,200 a year for textbooks. In terms of other college essentials, that's equal to 1 MacBook Pro, or 348 tubes of toothpaste, or most importantly, 489 Blue Room muffins. The industry is also very convoluted. As technology has improved and all this information is available online, textbooks' value has gone down. So the price should be going down as well, right? Wrong. The price has actually increased over the last couple decades over 1,000% at 3 times the rate of regular inflation. What's more, you're buying an asset that's not retaining value or increasing in value. By the time you sell it back at the end of the semester, it's usually worth only at least 50% of what you bought it for. Now, at this point, At this point, you may be asking, why don't I just get an online textbook? These digital textbooks are still incredibly expensive. You could download it illegally, which is illegal, but I know most students don't care about that. What students actually care about, though, is that studies have shown that digital textbooks make it harder to retain information, and when studying from a digital textbook, it's easy to become distracted. Also, that assumes that you can even find the textbook online. A lot of these humanities classes have very niche textbooks that are only in print because they're written by your professor. So how do we address a problem? How do we address a problem where we have a commodity that's way overpriced, but you still need, but you're not going to use that much? Through peer-to-peer textbook renting with Nextbook. Nextbook allows you to get textbooks for cheap on the daily and also rent out your old textbooks for money. I've drawn up a little mock-up of what the app would look like. When you first log on, it asks you whether you want to lend a textbook or rent a textbook. The search function allows you to easily search for any book. And once you make your selection, you're taken to a page where you can see the condition of the book, the user rating, say when you want to pick it up, and see how cheap it is. It's only $5 a day. If I had Nextbook during the semester, I would have spent $25 instead of $209. Now, I don't really know what that difference is off the top of my head, but I do know that it's a lot of muffins. You may be wondering, wow, this is so much fun, it must be illegal. Wrong, it's legal. The first sale doctrine says that once a user buys a textbook, they can do anything they want with it, including loaning it out to other students. So, in summary, Nextbook allows you to get cheap textbooks on demand and rent out your old ones to make some extra money. For too long, the textbook industry has held students hostage with high prices. Let's take the power back by using Nextbook. Any questions?
I noticed something a little strange last year when I began my time at Brown University. People really enjoy keeping empty bottles in their room. Like, I'd walk into somebody's room at the ground, there'd be a shelf of empty bottles. And I'd ask people, why? Why do you do this? They say, it's pretty. I like that I drank out of them, and now I have something pretty. You know what else people like? Plants. People love to keep plants in their room. Every year in the fall semester, people go to the succulent guy, the cactus guy. They buy their little plants in the little plastic cups. And 5 weeks later, they knock them over, and they're left with a mess. So these two things seem like very different problems. Why are bottles and plants connected? Well, they really, really are. So, people really like to keep plants in their room. However, they think they're going to kill them. They don't want to deal with watering them. They're afraid that the wind or a backpack will just knock them over, and it deters them from keeping plants there. But they still really, really like the aesthetics of them. They think they're beautiful. They like the way they look. They like the way it makes them feel. But they don't want to be like everybody else. They don't want to keep a succulent in their room because all their friends do. They don't want to have a cactus because it's the cool thing to have. They want something different. They want something they can't kill, and they want something they don't have to take care of or even think about. So, how are alcohol bottles related to this? Rehandle. Rehandle is a service that will come, collect your old bottles, recycle them, and then turn them into something beautiful. Basically, we'd come in, give us a call, whether you had a party, whether you just have a lot of recyclable bottles around, we'll come in, take the bottles you want to be recycled at no charge to you. Then let's say you want a little something extra. You want a plant. You don't want to deal with your stupid succulent that died anymore. You'd give us a bottle. We charge you anywhere from about $17 to $30, depending on your specifications. And we turn it into a beautiful terrarium that would contain plants like lichen and moss that don't require much sunlight. They don't require water because it would be a self-contained system. And most of all, it'd be very, very hard for you to look at a glass bottle and accidentally knock it over and spill your plants everywhere. So, after you talk to us for a little bit, give us some schematics of what you'd like, we'd return to you in about a week with a beautiful new little biosphere full of lichen, moss, glow-in-the-dark rocks if you want, maybe a little lotus flower. That's what floats your boat. Really, whatever you want. And you could just place it on your shelf where you keep your other bottles. Now, this seems like a very limited service. People don't want a shelf full of moss unless they're like a woodland creature or something. Like, I really don't think people would buy more than one of these. But in order to actually make these, we'd have to have a large stock of plants. So, this brings to light another idea. What if there was a plant service where every month, every 2 months, whatever you want, you'd have a fresh plant delivered to you, a little box. So if you do inevitably kill it because you knock it over, your friend knocks it over, forget to water it, you drop it out the window, you don't have to go to Warwick to the succulent shop to buy a new one. You don't have time for that. You'll just get sent a new one in about 2 weeks through us. Rehandle. What do you want on your shelf? If you're wondering whether these actually live, this little guy's been living under my bed unwatered for about 4 weeks now. He's doing pretty well and he's got a little ribbon, so they do live.
Great. Hey, so how many people have you asked on campus if they would want this or not?
So I've surveyed a large group of Brown students that responded very positively to the idea of having plants in their room in general. And when I brought up the idea of what if you could combine those two aesthetics of having an empty bottle and a plant, everybody responded positively.
So did you do a kind of a study to say, you know, because maybe just plants in the dorm room without the bottle thing would also be good.
Right.
Can you separate those out? Or
I absolutely could. That's the that would be like the secondary revenue stream. The main thing about having the bottle is give a little more like flash and glamour to the idea of having plants in your dorm room. But I think with this idea where the real money would come in would be people saying, all right, I want plants every 2 months. I know I'm going to kill them. I'll sign up for this service.
And maybe the bottle thing is only a sub-service of that.
A sub-service, exactly.
And then the next question, of course, is, it said $17 to $20. If it was a monthly service where you came in and you made sure it would probably be a different...
It'd be a different rate. It would probably be, I did the calculations, probably be around $40 depending how often you wanted it, depending what plants, but it would hover around $40.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a very practical question about what does this everlasting biosphere kind of thing look like? I mean, is it really attractive?
It is.
No offense.
Oh, this looks ugly.
A lot attractive.
This looks ugly. Basically, shifted them a little bit. Basically, when they actually get growing, they're very attractive. The whole idea was we'd have to have plants already growing to be able to implant them into the biospheres. So that's where the secondary channel would come in. We'd already have all these plants. You could either say, all right, I've got some bottles, you know, I want the fancy side of things. Or you'd say, I just want some hardy plants every 2 months. We'd have the plants growing. We'd either do first channel, second channel, whatever you'd like.
And how do you get them into these alcohol bottles?
Very, very carefully.
Thin neck, yeah?
Very, very carefully. That's the other thing is to actually make the bottles, it's a very manpower intensive service. Again, that's where the other revenue stream would come in. Yeah.
Great. It's a very intriguing.
Thank you.
Are you a biology major?
I'm an engineer.
I'm Claire.
I'm Kat.
And we're Root. We cultivate sustainability
through our favorite thing, food.
Last year, at Brown alone, over 1 million pounds of food was wasted.
And that's just including food that has been reused in some way, through energy conversions, donations, composting.
And while these are all fine ways of managing food waste,
they don't get to the root of the problem.
The root of the problem is inefficient food management.
We're ordering too much, not sourcing sustainably.
And we're generating far too much waste. But why do we care?
Food waste is greatly contributing to climate change.
Over 15% of US households are food insecure.
America squanders over $160 billion per year on food waste alone.
But we have a solution.
Root, a data analytics software.
It's designed for institutions who serve a large amount of customers and whose processes involve food prep. So think of university dining halls or corporate cafeterias. Let's get to the root of what need we're fulfilling.
So we did bottom-up research and talked to Bob Chase, Sustainability and Facilities Manager at Brown Dining Services.
He told us that what they really need is a comprehensive platform to address sourcing, distribution, and recapture.
They need data.
and they need a better way of interpreting that data to make better decisions,
to better processes,
and to maximize efficiency. Root revitalizes the food management process
through sourcing, optimizing orders,
through
with trends and graphs.
Sorry. Through distribution, which identifies how much, where, and what to serve.
Through recapturing, repurposing food by reincorporating it into menus or through composting.
All of this in order to save money and save the environment. So let's talk about how it all works. This here is my friend Kat, and she is the food manager at Dojo University.
And at Dojo University, we have a lot of mouths to feed.
So Kat, I know that there's so many different factors that go into your daily decision making.
Finally, someone who understands.
So Kat will open up the software on her computer and be greeted with a comprehensive set of questions addressing all the different variables that go into her operation.
Perfect, so I can input details on all my vendors, budgetary constraints, and all other nitty-gritty details of operation.
Submit. Next, Root will generate a customized data collection plan. This will include different instruments of collection to track the quantitative stuff, such as how much weight of food waste is being wasted, and also use scanners to track more of the human variables to identify employee behaviors and try to better manage them.
Well, that all sounds great, but how do I use all this data to help me make better decisions?
Easy. Root will generate intuitive graphs to help identify abnormalities and trends.
Oh, so I see that on Tuesday, there was a spike in wastage at Ratty, at Prep Station 4. I can track down the station, identify the problem, and adapt my training and protocol so that it never happens again.
It's all about continual improvement, and Root offers targeted suggestions, such as saying, hey Kat, on Tuesday, I see you wasted almost 40 pounds of bananas. On Wednesday, let's turn that into banana bread. Root, a dynamic solution to a dynamic problem.
Thank you for watching.
Hello, everybody. I created the Apple iPhone. No, I'm just kidding. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, hello. Oh, can I have the clicker? Yeah. Thank you. My name is Jeremy Rotheriz, and I'm going to tell you a little story about something that happened to me last month. It was a dark and stormy night. I was in the basement of the Rockefeller Library, and I was frantically working on a paper for a deadline that I didn't think I was going to make. And I took a sip from my water bottle, and I noticed that familiar tingling sensation you get in the back of your throat, which meant to me, I had a sore throat. And because a sore throat is the first perceptible symptom of a head cold, I knew that I was about to get sick. And for all of you college kids / real people in the world, being sick is like a problem. Missed opportunities, missed classes, missed meetings, missed meals with friends, no good. But I couldn't pay attention to any of that because I had to finish this paper. So I kept working and working and working, but this sore throat just got worse. And it got to the point where I couldn't even focus on the paper. So I decided I would take 15 minutes and run over to Thayer Street, grab the things I needed to grab to feel better, and return and keep working on the paper. So I ventured out into the cold October night. My first stop on this odyssey was T-Lux. At T-Lux, I purchased a very large and very hot cup of tea with some lemon that I started sipping on, and I was feeling better. Not great, but it did help my sore throat marginally. But then I knew that if I wanted to prevent this sore throat from turning into a full-fledged cold, I would need some vitamin C to boost my immune system, and maybe some zinc, which is clinically proven to reduce the duration of a common cold. So I went to CVS. I got the things I needed to get, popped them in the foyer, and I went back outside. But my sore throat was not getting much better. So I decided I would take my business down to health services where I could consult a professional, and there I did. But mind you, I'm getting progressively sicker with every step that I take. So I'm like doubling over in the middle of the road coughing by the time that I show up to health services. And once I was there, the nurse checked out my throat, was like, okay, it's a bacterial thing. Get some salt, get some hot water, gargle it, you'll feel better. So she gave me some salt. I went back to my dorm. I mixed it up into a nice little concoction, gargled it, spit it out. I was feeling better. A culmination of these 3 things was starting to help. But then I get back to the rock and I look at my watch, and it has been an hour and a half. And this was my course. Why does such a seemingly simple thing take an hour and a half and 3 to 4 steps to do? That is why I'm going to try to do this with 2 hands here, developed ambrosia. Ambrosia is a 1-step gargle then swallow elixir that solves all of these problems quickly and effectively. So, what's in this magical elixir, you may ask? Well, I will tell you. First and foremost, lemon juice. So the antibacterial properties of the salt water that was recommended I gargle from health services is actually found in lemon juice. So by gargling the lemon juice, I'm effectively doing the exact same thing that the salt water would do. Additionally, lemon juice has a naturally occurring vitamin C content. So I'm boosting my immune system by consuming the lemon juice after gargling it. Additionally, the lemon in the tea that I was drinking from Tea Lux contributes to soothing the sore throat almost immediately. So you could say that by gargling and swallowing the lemon juice, I'm killing 3 birds with 1 lemon. I'm sorry, that was so bad. Also, zinc, which is super fundamental. So zinc, as I mentioned earlier, is clinically proven to reduce the duration of the common cold. So I'm not going to meddle with the chemistry of the zinc. I'm simply going to take it and implement it into the elixir. And then a little bit of water, because drinking lemon juice on its own is a little bit too pungent and difficult to swallow. Effectively, when gargling and swallowing ambrosia, you are soothing your sore throat, boosting your immune system, killing harmful bacteria in the back of your throat that helps transform the sore throat into a common cold, and shortening your cold. That's 4 steps turned into 1. So, if we were to rewind and look at me back in that dreadful night in the rock, where I'm just freaking out about this paper, and I felt that tingle come on, if I had an ambrosia in my backpack, I could cover all of the bases of my Thayer Street Odyssey without ever having to leave my seat. Thank you. Any question? Oh, thank you.
Drag it all the way back to the beginning. Do it. Beautiful. Give us 1 second, please.
That was me 3 months ago, the day before my dojo interview, actually. Came back to my room, only to find it locked. And it was quite the surprise, because my roommate and I don't lock our room. Reminded me of the many times last year that I used to lock myself out. So I decided to research this problem, getting locked out on campus. In other words, I wanted to find out if I'm just a forgetful idiot, or if other students are similarly struggling to keep track of their key. I spoke with my friends and 15 other freshmen and sophomores. Unsurprisingly, many students keep their key in their pocket. However, I also heard some pretty ridiculous alternative strategies. So, we have laces, necklace, carabiner, backpack, wrist, earbud, braid, and literally going naked. Why? Because DPS only responds to emergency lockout calls during the day. So if you can make it seem like you just got out of the shower, you don't have to walk to Res Life to sign out a spare key. However, the most common solution is simple. Students just don't lock their door, thereby eliminating the need for a key altogether. I also spoke to Kelly Mitchell, Community Outreach Officer at Brown DPS, and heard some startling statistics. Last year, Brown police officers responded to 3,779 nighttime lockout calls. Multiply this by 5 to 10 minutes, the average response time, and police officers spent over 600 hours unlocking doors. So, keeping track of your key. It's a problem for students, and it's a problem for DPS, and it's a problem for Res Life. Interestingly enough, I did not hear that students were struggling to keep track of their ID like they are with their key. Why? Does this look familiar? I bet half of you in the room right now have one of these. Why? Because if I were to blindfold you, spin you in a circle 500 times, you would still be able to unconsciously reach for your phone. Wouldn't it be great if we always knew where our key was too? So I reached out to a friend, Sophia, who studies industrial design in RISD, and together we built our first prototypes using duct tape. But we didn't want to have to keep using the nice black DPS sleeves indefinitely. So Eric, the third member of Monkey, which the business came to be known, 3D printed some plastic molds into which we can now pour silicone. Our current prototype, like the DPS sleeves, holds ID cards, credit cards, whatever you need, but it also holds a key. Monkeys are easy to make, cheap, cost about $1 to make, even less if we can optimize the process, and super easy to customize. Going forward, we will be giving them out to students to take home over winter break, and then using their feedback, improve our design, and then next semester we hope to start selling them on campus. Next fall, we hope to partner with Orientation at Brown and distribute them directly to freshmen. DPS and Res Life are also potential customers. And of course, Brown is not the only campus with students figuring out their keys. So ideally, we hope to sell monkeys on campuses around the world and also partner with schools and private companies to distribute them at orientation. In short, we launched January 23rd, so get ready for some monkey business.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Justin.
Chris, I'm Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today, we'd like to tell you about what we've been working on for the past few weeks. We're really excited. But before we show you our product, we want to tell you about the problem we tried to solve. Anxiety. We've heard a lot about anxiety today. It's that feeling you get in freshman year when you walk on campus excited to have fun, but there's so many new people. And what do they think of you? That's anxiety, and we've all felt it before.
And we've all literally been through that, and we've been through all the other anxiety-inducing situations from the previous pitches, but sometimes it's a little more severe than that. For example, my roommate from last year, he was dealing with social anxiety, but at the same time, insomnia, bulimia, depression, and you take a step back and you realize from there, like, it's a lot more serious, and it's a very prevalent issue in our community.
It's a big problem. Anxiety lessens collaboration, reduces happiness, and destroys community. Now, we talked to psychologists, doctors, professors, we asked our friends, and we analyzed ourselves. And in the end, we found 3 major things cause anxiety. One is social comparison, like you all instinctively did when you saw the person next to you as you came in.
Like, I literally saw you do that right there. Nah, that's my roommate, I'm just kidding. And then focusing on too many things. So this one's that guy, that buddy that lives down the hall. He's taken like 17 CS classes. He saved a cat from a tree while he was training for a marathon. And then he transferred to Harvard. And then he transferred back just to make things harder.
Ugh, we all know that guy. And materialism. You know that feeling you get when your best friend gets a new iPhone X while you still use a pager? You just wonder, what went wrong?
That guy. So, talking to the same people, we found that helping others, exploring nature, and learning new skills are the 3 most effective ways to reduce anxiety. Now, what do these 3 things have in common? Well, they all involve engaging the environment around you. So this led us to our guiding principle, that serenity never comes from within. Rather, it comes from engaging the environment.
And so as Justin mentioned, something that we'd really like to stress is that unlike current platforms, which really stress an internal change in mindset, we found that it's much simpler than that. Actually, all you have to do is focus not on yourself, but in the environment and the community around you.
So this led us to our solution, and we call it Woofer. Woofer is a game that encourages you to engage with your environment. And the premise is that you're a dog. Because who doesn't want to be a dog? They're happy all the time, and they're seldom anxious. They love to play with other dogs and explore the environment.
And so this game media hybrid platform really encourages building a dope community where you can just be closer with other people, share your ideas, and most importantly, make you smile.
Yeah.
So what does this game actually look like? You start out by choosing a dog. And let's give him a friendly name. Let's call him Mr. Wiggles. And now you choose 3 values that are important to you and Mr. Wiggles out of a list of values. And based on those values, we'll give you challenges. A challenge every single day. And you can also adjust the frequency. And these challenges are centered around getting you outside of yourself and just focusing on the environment around you.
So today's challenge is to find and research an unknown plant or animal. So say I'm taking a walk in the woods, and I see this beautiful bird. And I take a picture of it and put it in journal entry mode. And I later find out that it's called a painted bunting. Well, in journal entry mode, I can write down everything I've learned about the painted bunting and save it. And if I ever want to look back at the things I've learned or the people I've met, I can always go to the dog park, and they're right there. So the goal of Woofer is to do challenges every day, extend yourself outside, and meet new people and learn new things. And by doing this, you keep Mr. Wiggles happy. But if you don't do challenges every day, your dog might get a little sad. His ears might get a little droopy, and his tail might go down. But not to worry. All you have to do is do some more challenges, take Mr. Wiggles out on a walk again, and he'll be right back up there in his happy place.
And so the overarching purpose of this is to really provide an atmosphere and a culture in which people can learn to shy away from that egocentrism, really focus on their community and helping others, and that will in turn help them improve themselves. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming. I want to encourage you to stick around while the judges deliberate on a winner. There's pizza outside, so go get some dinner.